All right, we're here with Sam Fuld, GM and one-time friend in the clubhouse. Congratulations on 2 great seasons in a row with the Phillies. And we've been doing this series here where we've been talking to people about their pathways to where they are. And I just want you to help sort of connect the dots between those conversations we had in the clubhouse with the A's and where you are today.
Yeah, I'll try to do that quickly. Yeah, I mean, I think when I played, I was always just, I don't know, curious. Looked at the game with an open mind. Yeah, was just a kid growing up who really liked numbers. I was like the dorky kid who carried around a stats book. That was like my security blanket growing up as a 5 and 6-year-old, and so I just always was interested in the statistics that the game is like, it's such a big part of the game, and obviously it continues to grow.
But just real quick, I can vouch for that curiosity because we had such interesting conversations in the clubhouse. I remember you asked me to look into what it would be like if we shuttled outfielders from the left and the right, depending on the handedness of the batter.
Yep.
You asked me once.
We actually tried that in Philly a little bit in spring training.
The
old South Philly swap, we called it. Didn't really come to much.
Sometimes when you have these things,
pitch clock makes it hard these days.
Pitch clock makes it hard. Yeah. But there's also sort of like the implementation, like the players would actually run like maybe a mile over the course of the game that they wouldn't otherwise.
Sure. No, but you got to have those like kind of curious.
Were the players into it, or they were like, "What's this stupid crap"?
They were maybe more open-minded to it than we anticipated.
Okay.
I think we collectively agreed that the juice wasn't necessarily worth the squeeze. But yeah, I mean, I think like the combination of just being curious and being sort of like looking at the game objectively. I think I appreciated like the way that the industry was trending, and I was, I think, right out of college when I read the book Moneyball and was just sort of impacted by that book in a meaningful way. Just recognize it was my first awakening that like other people looked at the game like this.
Was it wild to end up in Oakland?
A little bit, yeah.
Did you pick Billy's brain at all? Did you?
Yeah, I mean, we had good conversations. Yeah, sometimes it was like in the 5th inning up in the weight room when he was up on the bike and I was getting ready to go pinch run or something. But yeah, we had a lot of good conversations, and certainly a great deal of respect for him and David and everything that they've done there. But yeah, no, I think when I was like a bad enough player that I was thinking about post playing all the time
while you were playing.
Like my first year was like hitting 200 in low A as a 23-year-old. I might need to figure out what's next.
Thinking about what's next.
So I spent I probably spent 13 years thinking about what I was going to do after I played. But I think once I hung them up, I knew I wanted to be in the game. Just great appreciation and love for the game, and particularly looking at the game objectively and with sort of making evidence-based decisions. I was curious to see how that looked when you got a chance to peek under the hood and actually work at an organization. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was lucky to have a great conversation with Matt Klentak when it was funny. He had sort of like mentioned through my agent, like when I was still looking to play, like, hey, whenever you're done, told my agent, like, whenever Sam's done playing, like maybe circle back, maybe something would be a fit here. So I did. Thought the geography made a lot of sense, heard a lot of good things about the organization culturally, and liked the direction that they were headed. And luckily Matt had a really sound idea of how to sort of introduce myself into the game. And
what was your first role?
Well, we called it a player information coordinator, and I was sort of like a liaison between our analytics group and the coaching staff and the players. So I think it's a role that you're seeing more and more these days, and finding ways to make the sort of large load of data that we have access to, and making it meaningful, digestible, and impactful for players and coaches from a player improvement standpoint, from a strategy standpoint.
And that's from your background. It probably helps that you played, just from how they receive it, but also how you might chew it up.
Yeah. I think sure that helps. It doesn't mean that's the only way you can attack that role, but I think it helped to have the sort of like, I don't know, empathy to know that it's not as easy as saying like you need to stop swinging at those sliders. So at least I had that appreciation, and I certainly learned a lot. Like I you don't have access to a ton of data as a player. You have fan graphs and you have BP and other public resources, but like learned a ton from our group once I got a chance to become a Philly. And
is it peeking too far under the hood to ask if you've changed that a little bit for your organization in terms of what is available to them if they are curious and want
players?
Yeah.
It's been an evolution. I think it's you have to be responsible and thoughtful in how you deliver information to everybody. But yeah, I think
you have those curious players like yourself that kind of want
for sure
more, want access to
case
it
by case. We're always sort of having those kinds of conversations. How much is too much? But there's no doubt that the next generation of players is hungry for information,
even more so, right?
Yeah, which is really cool. But it makes I think the challenge increases. Like, just have to sort of take it case by case. Appreciate everybody's own ability to digest information and the aptitude.
Make sense of it.
Yeah. So yeah, we have those talks all the time, but there's no right or wrong answer. But I think in general, it's good to give guys a look at some information that could help them.
So you've come from being hired to now you're in the position to hire, and because you're doing so well, as a team, have you get poached probably? You get people that get to move on into bigger roles in other organizations. So is there just the effort to sort of tread water? Do you have to try and still have that growth mindset even though you've been so good? And how do you balance sort of, we need this role, and we need a really good person in this role, and we need to find this person?
Yeah, I mean, I think even if we had won 120 games last year and won the World Series, you just have to continue to grow. Like, the industry is moving really fast. Everybody's advantage seeking, and you're foolish to rest on your laurels and just say we're going to run things back. Whether that's literally the roster construction decisions or leveraging data and technology and innovations that exist and are just growing at a really rapid pace.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge when you start having success. You become a little bit more of a target on your back, and you run the risk of losing some really good people. But you hope you have a nice pipeline built in internally that allows the next person to kind of grab the baton and take on new opportunities. And then you're always looking to sort of backfill the entry level roles and just continue to funnel a lot of great talent into the organization.
As you're doing that hiring, I mean, this is almost a job fair, and especially when nothing's happening. So we're focusing on the job fair aspect of this. There's a lot of people here looking for jobs, a lot of people who listen to our podcast who would like to work in baseball. And so I've been asking, what type of things are you looking for in an applicant, and then specifically if you have any specifics for someone that is sort of starting out and wants to get into operations, scouting, development, what it is, are there specific skills and are there general skills that you sort of
the general
aptitudes that you think
sure about? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm biased by the current book. I don't read books as much as I like to, but I'm reading a book, latest Adam Grant book, Hidden Potential, and I'm sort of a lot of that early. I've gone through 2 chapters, but the first chapter really resonated with me when we're talking about character skills. And I think this, the technical skills I think can be learned. Of course, it's advantageous to have a really robust technical skill set if you're looking to be employed in baseball these days. But I think the character skills sometimes get underlooked and underappreciated. And so the open-mindedness, the curiosity, the willingness to be vulnerable, the passion, work ethic, all those things are that's where we start. We start with a human being and the character traits. And I think the skill set, the technical skills, the education that can come along once you're, that's part of the onboarding process. It's part of the continual development that we really value. But it starts with the human. You got to get the right level of empathy, willingness to work with others. The communication skills are also important, especially now as you've just got so many resources available in an organization. There's so much cross-functional work that you just have to have the requisite empathy and communication skills to be able to work with one another. There's no siloed work these days. So that's sort of a non-negotiable. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true in every organization, but
everybody talks about it.
Yeah,
everybody appreciates the importance of it. But, yeah.
Well, I was thinking about you demonstrated your communication skills as a player with good media skills. And I'm thinking about that sort of, demonstrating it outside of the interview. For these young people, is that publishing? Is that, is there something you'd like to see to sort of demonstrate these things outside of just the interview process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interview process itself is, depending on the role, I think is only tells so much. And I think a lot of what we do is it's reference checks, and particularly like, with candidates that have an extensive history in the game, and we have resources that we can lean on. But if it's an entry level role, there's not a lot of background, not necessarily an opportunity to call up a college professor and say, how is this, how is this student? I think showing passion through some sort of work, some sort of self-driven work, I think is a great way to start. Ultimately, I just spoke to it, but you have to have a passion for this game and a willingness to really like grind and I don't know, look at ways to impact the industry. They're becoming harder and harder, especially if you're the outside looking in and don't have access to the great amount of data that we do internally. It can be a challenge, but if you just put yourself out there and say, hey, I think that this might be interesting to a club, and pour your heart and soul into it, I think that's a great way to start. That's way more important than I think anything you might do in an interview process.
Sweet. And you guys are going to sign Yoshinobu Yamamoto anytime, right? Is that where you're going to go do that? You're going to break some news? No. Thanks so much for coming on, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah.
And this is the year you go over the mountaintop. I know it.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
All
Thanks,
right. Thanks.
Appreciate you.